So I'm one of four. I've got a brother and two sisters.
So is his name Ed Burns as well?
No, but my dad's dad is Ed Burns as well, and his dad was Ed Burns. And when a boy comes, he'll be Ed Burns too. So,
Well, so that now there is no doubt who the favorite son is of your dad. Now
Yeah, we
we
got.
figured that part
well,
out.
that's actually a performance-based position, and it changes from time to time. So
Sure, you move up and down in the slot in the categories. It's like a lottery. Let's see
I'm
how we did this.
yeah,
How we did
I'm
this week.
typically floating between 2 and 3. You know,
That's okay.
I,
There's
Hey,
nothing
that's
wrong.
better than 4. I mean, I'm just
yeah,
gonna go. That's
I've
better
been
than-
there. I've been there.
4 gets you out of the will. 3 keeps you in there. So yeah, just try to stay in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, I think the strategy being 4 is that as times go on, you can start to impress, move your way up a lot quicker. And all of a sudden, maybe dad and mom they get a little maybe they get a little impressed as they get older as well. All right, here you go. So you have the business. Talk to me. You came. When did you begin in your the transportation your career with Burns Logistics?
Yeah, so I started about 2 years ago. I had been doing digital marketing before that. But the truth is, Big Ed, my dad, he's an old school freight sales guy. So when we were little kids, he definitely took the approach of bringing his kids into sales calls. So there's a picture of me at about 4 years old standing in the wheel well of a Mack truck on their production floor with my hands up. And we would go on sales calls with him. He would take traffic managers out with their kids, and if they were a similar age, maybe we'd go to like a Flyers game or a Sixers game. And my dad did that with all 4 of us. As I started getting older, went into school, did not want to get into the business because growing up, he would always say, freight gets in your blood, trucking gets in your blood. That's he would say it all the time. And so I went to school and wound up falling into digital marketing, and I started a small marketing agency coming out of college. And I was doing that I did that for about 7, 8 years. And while I was doing that, my dad and I started getting closer, like just socially, we started becoming really building our friendship. And so we spent more time together. We would talk about business, talk about growth and opportunities and how to deal with problems. And I would go to some trucking conferences with him. I would travel with him a couple times a year. He'd be there looking for freight opportunities or for new carriers. And I would go looking to see if there was a trucking company who needed a website where truck drivers could come on and apply online easily and do some social media work. This was like in 2015 to 2018, so, and at that time, and even, maybe today, but especially then, I think that was still pretty new to the industry. Trucking companies were just starting to wake up to that need. So I would go with him to these events and really got pretty familiar with the industry, started picking up some clients in trucking, and was able to learn the industry from spending time with him and from working with clients in the space.
All right, biggest learning experience since joining your dad in Burns Logistics business, the family business. What is that?
Yeah.
What has that been? The biggest learning experience for you?
Well, I think the market's been pretty wild the last couple of years. It doesn't seem like this is typical, so it's an interesting time to come into it. What I think I've learned the most is that you gotta stay steady. You gotta continue to, no matter what the market's doing, what's happening externally, internally in the business, and within your own activities. You got to keep doing the same things day in and day out, and not worry too much. Obviously, it's a factor, but if you're doing the right things, you'll still be able to transact business no matter what's happening.
How does that correlate to as you develop these relationships and that communication? How does that correlate to you as you go out and develop these relationships? That calming factor or that factor. How does that correlate?
Yeah, well, the thing we believe everybody can be successful, and that there's plenty of freight for everybody, right? So I think when you come in with that attitude and you mean it and you talk to people, you're able to start to develop the business side of the relationship a little bit stronger, because I think there's a reality in our space that it can be a little adversarial between shippers and carriers sometimes, right? They can be a little at each other's throats, and as soon as a market swings happen, somebody's ready to pounce. I don't think that's a good thing, and I don't think it's necessary, but I do think it happens a lot, right? So when you come in and say, hey, I want to help navigate this so it's a little bit more steady, we care about how you do, we get to know the people we work with pretty well, and we're able to develop a good relationship with them. You know, we know about their spouses and their kids and what's going on in their lives, and you know, if somebody's looking to change a job, or you know, we typically get a call pretty early on and are in a position to help people. And to my father's credit, Big Ed's done a great job of building that trust-based operation, and so I've been fortunate to come in and just pick up some of the benefits of that and come into some of these relationships, and there's just a high trust level, but that's taken a long time to build.
Yeah, for sure. Talk to me about this, because, you know, and especially for the younger brokers or the younger salesmen that are out there today, you know, that very first call you had to make, and if you can just kind of go back with us in memory, that first call you had that you knew you're going to get in trouble. It was bad news. Maybe you lost the carrier, or maybe that trucking company, and that, you know, whatever that relationship was, it just fell apart. Now you're having service failures, whatever the issue was. Talk to us about that first call, the struggles that maybe you had with it, and what you learned from that.
Yeah, so the first one we had won a ton of business with a big shipper and a new carrier for us, and it was really exciting. Big deal, right? So the shipper calls, hey, love them. Can you please set up a call because I want to give them more freight? I'm like, yeah, let's get them more freight. So, so I set up the call with their whole operations team. Hey, we're going to do this call. They want to give you more freight. Okay, we'll be on it. They have like 5, 6 people on it. The shipper says, I think you're a great carrier. Love what you're doing. We want to give you more freight. And I'm sitting there and this is going great. And the carrier says, well, we really appreciate that, but we're actually going to have to give your account back. We can't service it. Dwell times are too long, and we're done.
Ouch. Yeah, that was a nope.
I just wanted to cry. So it was very unexpected, right? But I think when you have a situation like that, those are moments of opportunity, because if your follow-up is good, then you can recover pretty nicely, right? So that was the first deal we had with that shipper. Didn't have too much of a relationship with them at that point, but what it did is it allowed me to follow up and address. If you can address conflict or address a negative situation well and have difficult conversations with people, that's where I think you earn the most trust. And that's where you're going to go from having, you know, a business relationship to having one that's more integrity based and spend more time together. And that's what it did. It allowed us to build the relationship stronger. Now, in the moment and for a couple weeks following, it didn't feel that way. But in the months since then, that's kind of what it turned into.
Yeah, as you find these problems, I mean, that's pretty much what you're talking about, Ed, is you're helping develop solutions for these genuine problems between these two, and that's really what you're basically finding out and creating these solutions in the long term. How is technology helping you do this? How do you know, as we evolve in the industry, it becomes ever more necessary and ever more present that we, you know, include technology in almost every single thing we do. How are you developing that or adding that to your knowledge base?
Yeah, great question. I think this industry, trucking, is still a little bit behind on the technology curve, and as far as the technology exists. And I remember going to conferences in, you know, call it 2010 to 2015, and people were talking a lot about big data. I was like, well, we need big data. It's like, we need big data. And the reality is nobody knew what to do with their big data. They didn't know how to take actionable, you know, they didn't know what to do with it. They had all this data and it didn't mean anything. It was just like a big database. Okay. And I think that is the temptation a lot of times with technology. There's a new technology that comes out and we say, oh, well, we need to include this in our business. Don't know how we're going to do that, but it's going to be great. And I think a lot of companies, especially small to mid-sized carriers, when it comes to technology, I think they need to slow down a little bit and make sure they're using like the most basic tools well, right? Like you can have a really fancy TMS system, but if you don't have email filters set up to get rid of your spam, like you're still wasting a couple hours a day on email, right? So I think there are small things like that that need to get cleaned up just operationally. Beyond freight technology, just business technology.
Yeah, hey, Ed, let's talk a little bit about Burns Logistics. You know, as many brokers or logistics companies, you know, we look at a logistics company as a brokerage company. Y'all do something different, though, where you are. You connect the shipper and the carrier together. Talk to me about how that has been, you know, how you got made it a business out of that, connecting the two together and kind of, I don't want to say staying out of the way, but kind of moving out of the way and allowing them to create that success.
Yeah, so I think you got to know what you're good at. And we're good at connecting people. We're good at identifying opportunities, connecting the dots, solving problems, and through connecting people, right? So a lot of times a problem can be solved. Going back to technology, when you have an XYZ business problem, it can be solved by talking to so and so. You know, and this person can really help you to work through this issue, right? So that's all we do. We connect people, and that's what we've gotten pretty good at. There are, I think, a lot of people in the space who do some side work or a little bit, or they're an independent commission salesperson. And what we've done is we've just formalized it a little bit more and grown it, and we've gotten to a scale that we're just, you know, we're a little bit bigger than an independent one-person sales agent. We're an agency. You know, we have a couple people. Big Ed and I are doing sales. We're able to do a fair amount of travel and meet a lot of people, and then we have a lot of partnerships. We have a lot of contractors and 1099 people. We were able to collaborate with a lot of other people who do the same thing that we do. Big Ed just kind of built the business. He worked hard and started with one carrier and a couple shippers, and now we represent over 60 fleets.
Wow, it's just yeah, it's a neat story, because the first time I met your dad, it was from a, you know, on our carrier side. So we as a trucking company, it was weird. Like, you know what, you're gonna kind of introduce us and maybe stay out of the way. It was a little different approach than what we're used to. Maybe a broker coming in and saying, I'll tender you the freight. And Ed was like, no, I want you to have that relationship. I want to kind of be there, you know, to mend that relationship. So I love that approach to it, especially in these days and times. It is a little different. It's, you know, but
market.
yeah, but I like that because, you know, Ed, I don't know about your belief on this, but I do believe that if you want true success, you've got to let that trucking company own that account, right? Have that direct relationship. Have you seen success from those trucking companies when you turn that relationship over to between them and that shipper?
Oh, absolutely. The most success we have are with the fleets who have that understanding and are fine with us, you know, letting go, and then really take ownership of how the account operates. And then I think what really does it is when they're willing to call us and say, hey, I need help. Hey, I'm not hearing back. I sent an email, you know, 2 weeks ago and put in a phone call. Can you help me? Hey, I got a busted trailer and we're not getting reimbursed for it. Can you help us? That's where we're able to really help. And the day-to-day tendering operation, these fleets, they have really capable people sitting in those seats. Let them do what they're good at, and then, you know, some of that sales side, taking somebody out to golf, fixing the relationship, making sure you're getting tendered what you're supposed to, asking for a rate increase. You know, those are the things that you probably don't want your dispatcher making those calls. So that's what we're here for.
Hey, I got a question for you. So you have your dad's approach, and now you have you, a little younger version coming in. We mix them up together on here. What have you, there's some things in this business that don't appear to be changing anytime soon, and those are those relationships, those personal relationships. What have you seen, though, with technology? I mean, was there a struggle, or is there a struggle between, say, too much email and not calling the customer that you've seen, that old and new style, let's just say? Have you seen any, what are some of the differences that maybe you and your dad have in approaches? I'm not saying who's winning the argument, but the approaches in addressing a customer, whether it's a phone call or an email, old school versus the new school that you're bringing in.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest difference between me and my dad is really the hair. Other than that, we're pretty aligned most of the time. I think it's a little give and take. I mean, honestly, there are days where he's in his email and I say, Dad, come pick up the phone and make some calls, right? Because that's where he shines. He's really good at that. On the technology side and bringing in, I love LinkedIn. I love using it to find people, figure out who I need to be talking to. We have pretty good success with that, and we're able to work together on that. So maybe I'm more familiar with the tool and can help him get the contact that he's looking for. But then he's great on the phone. So I think it's a mix. What I'm seeing, though, is that the decision makers really drive it, right? So there's a big difference in a traffic manager who's in his 50s and a traffic manager who's in her 30s, right? Big difference in how they want to be communicated with, big difference in how they make decisions, big difference in whether and how they're willing to be entertained, right? So it's like totally different sales approach, right? So I think we're making our decisions based on that. We gotta figure out what the customer wants and what they're looking for. Some people really like to go out and golf, and some people just want to have a 15-minute phone call or a Zoom call, and they don't want to meet you. So you got to be able to work with both of those.
Where are you headed, Ed? Here it is. We're talking. Let's look into the future. Where are we headed for yourself, and what's your goals headed going forward?
Yeah, so our vision is to be the best resource in the world at connecting people in the freight space, so everyone can be successful. So we're kind of still figuring out what that means, working through how does technology fit in our business, and how to make that happen. But we want to grow. We want to continue to establish new relationships and figure out what other resources can we bring to our carriers and shippers, right? So now we're starting to reach out to, we have more partnerships with consulting firms and technology providers, so that now when we hear about business problems, instead of just empathizing and saying, sorry to hear that, we can offer a solution. I think that's where we're going. If we just want to we want to be the best at connecting people with the solutions they need. So that's what we're focused on here in quarter three. And I think by doing that, we'll be able to grow our business.
All right, Ed, it's our close time. We have Double Check Dale waiting at us. Before we leave, though, Drive Safe Dave, give him the rules that we have to do.
Yeah, before you get out of here, we always ask our guests to make sure that they state their name, who they're with, and that you're watching BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. Can you do that?
I sure can. I'm Ed Burns with Burns Logistics. You're watching BCB Live, the safest station in the nation.
All right.
I appreciate
Thank
you, Ed.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you so much. Thanks for what you
gentlemen.
do, and good luck with everything.
Thank you.
All right, there's Ed Burns, and not Big Ed Burns, just Ed Burns. It's
Different hair.
Yeah, different hair. That's Ed, Big Ed with hair. How about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff, man. And, interesting take, good, the torch being passed, great individuals bringing on some much needed information and positive thinking toward the industry.
Yeah, and I thought he had a great point there, too, is that you've got to look at every decision maker, that new person, and that makes the decision as a shipper as their own individual. Are they a young group? Are they that older group? You've got to listen to them to see what they want to do. If they only want to talk to you on Zoom, quit trying to set meetings with them, because they don't want to meet. They don't want to see you.
They don't want to meet you at tea time. They don't need a tea time.
They don't need it. No, they're good with Zoom. They have other things to do. Perhaps they have a family at home. All of the things. It really has changed business. Those relationships that we've learned through COVID, that we can have different kind of relationships without taking time away from our family.
Absolutely, and you never know exactly what's most important in people's lives, and I'll tell you, as we learn that in business, it's nice to focus on that and understand your customer. I mean, that's pretty much what he's saying.
Oh, yeah.
Understanding your customer and creating that good bond.
All right, we're going to be right back with Double Check Dale. This is Salmon Drive Safe Dave, Sir
Pete.
Rick. Double Check Dale's coming up next.
You're watching BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. BCB Live covers freight. Here we are now at 21% of record freight being rejected. News
Down in Texas, we're going to talk a little bit about this. We had another $1.5 million seizure. If ever there's a time to do a pre or post trip, it's if you're doing something wrong.
weather, traffic.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to some traffic and weather with Buckle Up Bob. You can kind of see where the visibility can be compromised a little bit. Again, right where that rain is.
And most importantly, safety.
One of the things that we must do is make sure that safety is the number one thing that we focus on.
Going into an intersection, yellow is not the way. That's to clear an intersection, not to enter an intersection.
Tune in weekdays from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. Central Standard Time. You can watch BCB Live through LinkedIn, YouTube, or Facebook. So what are you waiting for? Subscribe today and follow BCB Live.
Hey, welcome back to BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. You got Double Check Dale here going over a little bit of weather, and not a lot happening currently. We're going to start with the winds. We do see a couple stronger pockets of winds that are blowing a little bit harder through the Texas Panhandle, Oklahoma into Kansas. Pretty good strong little wind up there in North Dakota, and then northern Ohio and Indiana. No major gusts. I didn't see any major gusts throughout the day. As we shift into the afternoon a little bit more, the winds up in South Dakota get a little bit stronger, but really no major gusts over 35 up there. Same could be said through the Texas Panhandle, Oklahoma Panhandle, and Kansas. The winds pick up a little bit more, but no major gusts are predicted. This afternoon out in Indiana and Pennsylvania, West Virginia, the winds start to get up a little bit more. But again, we're not seeing any of the major gusts. Now, when we get to 7 o'clock this evening, out in Nebraska, you do see some of the stronger winds. That's northern Nebraska, probably above the I-80 corridor. And so really not a lot going on with the winds today. If we take a look at the thunderstorms, the rain and thunder, currently have a pretty good strong cell up there in South Dakota, North Dakota line. And then also in Indiana, a pretty strong cell right there in northern Indiana. So if you're in that area, that's probably around that 80-94 quarter. Be aware of that. Some stronger winds, potential for some flash flooding to go on with that. As we move through the day, not a lot happening as far as strong storms go. We do have quite a few thunderstorms happening throughout the day, but none of them look to be severe or real strong. And that's the Gulf Coast area is going to see some Indiana, South Dakota, and parts of Colorado see some this afternoon. We get into the evening, we do see a little bit of a stronger storm starting to develop up in Nebraska and through Iowa. And so you want to be aware of that if you're up on I-80 this afternoon in Iowa, Nebraska this early evening. And in the overnight hours, we do see a pretty strong storm developing there in central Indiana. So that's what's going on with precipitation temperature-wise this week. And we'll just take a quick peek at it. It's going to be hot this week, so be aware of that. Know what heat stress feels like, looks like, heat stroke. Get plenty of moisture. Don't overexert yourself. If you're feeling dizzy or you stop sweating, take that break. Call your DM, say, hey, I'm not feeling good, or I need to take a little bit of a rest. Don't push yourself on that. Take this heat very, very seriously. It affects us all differently. Be aware of those signs. With that, we'll take a short break and come back and talk safety.
This segment has been brought to you by Utility ProWear. Utility ProWear manufactures high-quality, ANSI-certified, high-visibility apparel for both men and women. Infused with the Teflon fabric protector, Utility ProWear affords the wearer durable clothing with a great fit to afford the highest degree of safety. Get your high-visibility apparel by going to utilityproware.com. Use the code BCB20 at checkout for an exclusive discount.
Hi, this is David Dover, also known as Drive Safe Dave. You are watching BCB Live, the safest station in the nation.
Safety is what you want to talk about, and safety is what you want to be every single day. That's what we're here for. We're here to make it better.
The industry needs BCB Live so that it can find new and inventive ways to bring safety to the forefront for every single person out there on the road.
You got to be prepared to stop. And when you look at that and you understand the situation that you're in, you got to know that it's going to change. You got to expect it to change, and you can't run those lights.
You can watch BCB Live weekdays, 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. Central Standard Time. So what are you waiting for? Follow and subscribe to BCB Live today.
Welcome back to BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. You bring up a good point when it comes to that heat. You know, as a world-class athlete, you know, I felt dehydrated on Saturday when I was walking home from the office. I'm not sure where the joke is on this right here, Dale.
The world-class athlete. Not that I don't think you're world-class there, Rick, but the athlete part, that's a little...
But I will say that sun was beat down. It was hot. It was humid. You know, it was, you know, there was only so much water. I was worn out. I'm telling you, I could feel a little different. I didn't take a chance. I remembered what you had said earlier that day, and I took it to heart, and I feel like I owe you my life now.
Well, I thank you, Sir Rick. I appreciate that. And it does, you know, I sat out in the sun Sunday afternoon for 3-4 hours, drank plenty of liquids, mostly water. But man, all of a sudden I just got to the point where it just felt fatigued, just worn out. And so you have to be able to recognize those signs and then act on them, do something about them.
You do. What we got going on this week?
You know, this week we're talking about Operation Safe Driver, which is happening next week, you know, and that's 10th through the 16th. You know, it's where they focus on not only commercial motor vehicles, but also on the general motoring public and what they're looking for. You know, they always focus in on something. The major focus this week is speed, and we talked about that yesterday. But another thing they're looking for is distracted driving. It's really interesting as I look what they're focusing on. It's stuff that we talk about every day on the safety show. I mean, we talk about that speed. We talk about distracted driving. You know, in 2020, distracted driving claimed over 3,100 lives out on the road. I mean, you cannot drive safely unless the task of driving has your full attention. Any non-driving activity you engage in, you know, whether it be on the cell phone or whether it be conversation, fiddling with your radio, is a distraction and increases the risk of crashes. And so you just have to be aware of that and make sure that you don't let yourself get distracted. It is so easy to do out there, but as soon as you recognize that, hey, get your focus back on that big picture situational awareness.
Yeah, it's you know, Dave, talk to us a little bit about what Dale was saying there.
About speed?
Distracted driving.
While going fast. Distracted driving while going fast. You can be,
there you go.
I mean, if you're, I mean, just while you're driving. I mean, not, and as you get distracted, you lose focus of what's going on out there.
And Drive Safe Dave joins us at the show today. Hey, Dave, welcome to BCB Live. We're the safest station. We're not the timeliness. We're not known for our timeliness, but we are known for our safety here. Hey, let's roll into some videos.
All right, first video we got today is called "No Matter When or Where, Stop Means Stop."
So we're going to start out with that rolling stop sign today. And, you know, looks like we're in the middle of the country. And so the driver's probably thinking, well, I can see for miles. Nobody's coming. I don't need to stop. Yes, you do. One, it's the law. Two, it gives you that opportunity to take a better look around. See if, you know, that cyclist or pedestrian or whatever is out there. We're not just looking for cars. And a lot of times when we roll this stop sign like this, we just take that quick glance looking for a car, but we don't see the whole picture. You got to stop to get that whole picture.
It's a stop sign. You stop. You know, it's just it's really that simple. If you don't get to zero, you didn't stop. You got to kind of feel, and you know when you stop, right? You because you stop. You know, you feel a little tug or push or whatever that is. You got to make sure that you continue to follow the rules. If you and I think you all do a great job in saying it's a habit, right? Because if you're not stopping here, where else are you not stopping at?
And I think, you know, so many times we don't recognize the habit we have. Or, you know, you get so familiar with a certain area, you think, well, I've been through here 100 times before, and there's never been a vehicle. The 101st time, maybe a car. Maybe a car in the dark with its lights off. So you just got to stop and take that look every time.
Next is space increases, but not enough.
You know, we're looking at this, and I love this technology. It shows us, you know, what the following distance are, so we can see the space starting to increase a little bit, but we really never get to that, you know, point where we need to be. At 55, we should have about 4 seconds, and we never even get to 1.2. But, you know, we look at the speed here, 56, 57 miles an hour posted, well underneath the posted. So it's really dual things. It's speed and space.
Yep, and you're getting there. I mean, you're getting there. Get there a little quicker, though, right?
Yeah.
As we continue to work on these things, we want to make sure that you recognize how close you are. And all you have to do is slow down for a second, a half a mile an hour, put the brakes on for a second, and you're going to be probably the proper distance away from the vehicle in front of you. We want you to have that space because that space is needed when you make a decision. When bad things happen, when the car in front of you stops, you need all the space you can to safely stop.
Yep. And as we look at this, when we got the metrics going across the bottom and we see a red line going up there, and that's where the driver hits the brakes, touches the brakes a little bit. And when we see that, automatically we see the space increase. We go from 0.09 to 0.1. And so, I mean, it just takes that little bit to increase that space.
Next is speed is nice, need to increase your space.
You know, again, we're talking about, you know, we have the speed, we're managing our speed here, but our space is still too close, and so we just have to recognize that and get that space first and then go back.
Yeah.
And get the
Hey,
speed.
go back to the previous video on this. Go back to the previous video if you can on this. So here we go. You look at the previous video right now, we're 1.1 seconds away, and look how close the vehicle is, and we're still 1 second away. You've got to recognize here we're going 55, 56, 57 miles an hour. Go to the current video. Now we're going 70, and yet your space has been lessened, right? I mean, you don't have as much space because you are going 70 miles an hour. You've got to increase that space even more. And Dave, once again, we're not talking about a major change. We're not talking about the driver losing any time. We're just asking, hey, get that space corrected.
Yeah, find a way to react accordingly. Here it is. You're right on the cusp of allowing yourself the moment to react right here. Look, you recognize, hey, look, 1001, 1001, and as you count, as you go into 1001, you know as you went under that sign you're too close, even at this speed. And as you increase the speed, the distance needs to be greater, and they compound. So you've got to make sure you count. Make sure you see what's going on. You don't see these metrics in the truck, right? You don't see these. So what you have to see and what you have to understand is the basics. And the basics are count it out, realize how far you are away, and react accordingly.
Yeah, the faster you go, the more space you need.
Of course.
So just, I know it sounds simple, but understand that you saw the previous one. They were closer, but they were going 15 miles an hour slower.
Right.
The faster you go, the more space you need.
This next video is called One Tailgate After Another.
You know, so we got ourselves in a situation where we're tailgating right here. We're too close on it and everything, and you can almost feel that we're just looking for that moment to make a lane change, and we do. And we get from tailgating in the center lane to tailgating in the passing lane. Gentlemen, ladies, drivers, professionals, recognize the situation you're in and back off. Get that space first before we go over there and make that quick lane change and get in the same situation we were just in.
Yeah. I mean, it's just about space, speed and space. It's creating better habits. It's like stopping at the stop sign when nobody's there. It's creating those habits. It's making sure you are stopping. It's this one right here, making sure that you have the space required. It's a habit that folks, America, you know, men, women, anybody out there, you're gonna have to learn the technology, understand the technology, what it's telling you, and using your own technology inside the brain to count it, to make sure you realize that you're just too close. And if anything happens, I'm just telling you, you don't have the room to stop.
Nope.
I'm not saying you won't get lucky and make it out, but you don't have the room. Statistics say it, so why put yourself in a bad situation?
This next video is another instance of being too close, but you're below the posted speed.
You know, again, it just all is going back to that speed and space management. You know, we're looking at different speeds that the vehicles are going in the distance that we have to have between us. You know, Our mind thinks we can calculate that, but the counted out loud is probably the safest measure here to figure that you're just too close here. We're under a second, and so you just have to back off a little bit more. Mile an hour, 2 miles an hour, get that space, and then get right back up to the speed you want to drive at. Just don't close that space in.
Yeah, it's so critical what you just said there, and that's the part there that, again, we just have to hear what Dale's saying, is that we're asking you to slow down for a couple of miles an hour, 3, 4, 5, get the space correct, and then go back to 68 miles an hour. You're not going to lose any time. You have to want that space. Okay, I want you to own that space. I want you to have more space in front of you than what you think is required, because it takes a second of reaction time before anything else even happens. You've got to make sure you have that space. Want more space, not less. You have to want more space. You can never have too much space.
Yeah, and what you just said, Rick, is that second of reaction time. What happens if you get distracted for a second and you don't have that reaction time? I mean, it's game over.
Yep. I know you're not on your phones, but if you're on your phone for that half a second, that second, you're texting the word K or OK, and you're not supposed to. We get it. But when you are doing it and you're not, and even though you're not supposed to, a second, you're done.
Yep.
You're done. Allow yourself the space.
Yeah, identify it today. I mean, we talk about it. We're going to continue to talk about it. We're going to continue to talk about this area between the vehicle in front of you and the truck. It is paramount to your success. You have to own that area of real estate. It is up to you. It's not up to the driver in front of you. It's not up to the driver beside you. It's not up to anybody else. It's up to you to own that territory between you and the vehicle in front of you, and do everything you can to create your area of success, because if you don't have it, you won't succeed. If you don't have it, you can't protect life. If you don't create that space between you and the vehicle in front of you, you're endangering them and yourself.
Dale, I know you deal with a lot of technology out there, and I'm curious on this. In some of the platforms that we have out there, is there a way to run a report? And just hear me out here, because, is there a way to run a report that says at over 55 miles an hour, what drivers have the greatest amount of space between them and the vehicle in front of them? Is there a way to say, this vehicle here tends to have 8 seconds, of distance between him and the vehicle, or her and the vehicle in front of her, and this other one only averages, say, 1.8 seconds of following distance on a 500-mile trip?
Yeah, I would say, looking at the technology we have, it's much easier to get that report that says these are the vehicles that consistently follow too close, or have the events where they're too close in, where they're underneath the set parameters, versus the ones that are over it, because we really aren't looking for those. We're not measuring those. So, I mean, I'm going to work with Samsara and a couple other of the vendors to see if there is a way to put some settings out there to measure that.
Yeah, the habits of a successful driver. Do we as a country, do we as a trucking industry, do we exploit them? Meaning, do we take the habits of successful, safe drivers and share them with the drivers that are, say, struggling?
Yeah. I think
not us speaking, but do we take those drivers that are most successful, and do we put that on them to help, say, with Drive Safe Dave, to help him be a little bit safer? Let me share with you what I'm doing to be successful on the safety side, Dave, and I share that with you, that maybe you're struggling for whatever reason, and my job is to work with you. Do we do that as an industry, I wonder?
Probably not as much as we should. I mean, there are some mentors out there that are willing and do share what they've learned and done.
When you think mentorship, I mean, I always think of mentorship as a newer driver coming into the industry. Some of these drivers that need mentorship may not be new to the industry at all.
No, but they may be new to BCB, or they may be new to their company, whether it's whoever it is. And so even though they have the experience, you still need a mentorship or somebody to help coach them along a little bit. Say, hey, here's what they expect here. Here's what we do here. Here's what we look at. Here's what's important, the safety aspect of it. And have that older and more experienced driver say, hey, here's what's working for me. But you want to be aware of these things. And so you help set that to where they want to change their habits or change some of the things that they've normally done.
Yeah, but you see, you're saying that, and I guess my question as an industry, I wonder how many of us in this industry do that. How many of us take those drivers that are extremely successful, those that have, say, a report card on the top shelf, right, 90% or more, whatever that is, how you grade a driver on safety, and have them work with those drivers that are underneath. I mean, is there a better way to learn safety than from one of your peers drive, say, Dave, as opposed to, say, yourself as a safety manager, Dale, or myself as a safety manager? Would we learn better from one of our peers?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and you know there are very many instances throughout society today that groups of individuals that work together as teams help themselves and get better at what they do, whether it be anything from, let's just say, Weight Watchers group, or I'm just saying anytime you can group in some people trying to help one another, I think the group as a whole benefits.
It creates a little bit of teamwork as well, right?
Absolutely, and it opens up, you know, some genuine conversation, and it allows for people to be honest with one another. I'll tell you that as we do this and as we recognize it and we watch these videos, for me personally, you know, being in denial of my own actions, because we all compensate for, if I see somebody else doing the negative behavior, if I witness them doing it, then I'm more inclined to identify it in myself if I see them doing it wrong. So I'm able, and I think these videos do a great, they resonate deeply with most professional drivers as we show them, because we may not necessarily see it in ourselves, but if we watch these videos and we recognize, hey, ran the stop sign, that dude, there's no doubt in my mind but we tell ourselves we did stop. But if we see that and these things happen and we identify those negative behaviors in somebody else, we can see those in ourselves. So I think these pictures and these videos resonate well, and I do like the idea that we continue to add them. But I don't know the genuine answer to your question. I would like to know how self groups would do that.
Well, you know, so with safety, to me, it's with anything that we do in this industry, is that you've got to take action, and that even means a safety manager, a safety director, a trucking company. You've got to take action if you want to make change. You can sit and talk about it like we do on this side over here, and nothing's really going to change. It's the action that says, you know what, this is what we're going to do. And yes, it's a little bit more work. Yes, it at first. But once you create and find ways to create success amongst those groups, and every group may take a different kind of, you know, every group's not created equal. Some groups you got to do something a little bit different to create success within them. But as a group, as a nation of truck drivers, we've got to find a way to be more safe, to be safer. We have got to find a way to change things up. We've got to find a way to bring new drivers into our industry, safer drivers into our industry. We've got to find a way to identify those drivers that just don't want to make a change and get them out of our industry. It's what we've got to do. We've got to own this industry and own it to that degree that says, you know what, if you're going to drive, we're not asking, you know, we would love to have perfection, but we know it's impossible because we're humans behind the wheel. But what we do want is actions that when you notice something's wrong, when you notice that you're faulty, that you back off. We want you to increase that space, you know, decrease that speed, you know, for the sake of your fuel economy, for the sake of your business. We want you as a safety manager, as a trucking company, as a dispatcher, as a hiring manager, to truly understand that it takes all of us to create success in one driver on the safety side. And what are we actually doing to make them safer? Not talking. What are we doing? What are we doing to make sure that you make it home safe and that you allow my family to get home safe? What are we doing? That, Dave and Dale, to me, as an industry, is what we've got to do. We've got to do things. Do. Action. We don't have a choice if we want to make a difference. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day you've given us. We ask that you continue to watch over all of us. You find ways, Lord, for us to act upon the action of safety, to act upon that want, and find a way to make each and every one of our companies successful, to help our drivers to be more successful, more safe. Lord, that's what we want them, is just to be back home with their families, back home to us. Help us find a way to have the courage to create action to make our companies the safest companies out there. It's in your son's name we pray. Amen. Everybody will be back tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. We have any special guests tomorrow? Hulk Hogan, anybody?
I think Hulk
Hogan again?
I think again.
Yeah, Hulk Hogan again, followed by, I would say the Macho Man. I don't think he's around anymore. Is he?
Kabuki.
Macho Man.
Andre
Who
the
was
Giant
your
is
guy?
showing
Hold
up.
on a second. Who was your guy?
Kabuki.
Kabuki, what? Did he make a noise or anything?
You get the claw.
Oh, was he the claw?
Yeah.
We had on here Jim Hacksaw Dugan. He was on the show
Oh, yeah.
before. Oh! Oh! Whatever that was. Did you have a wrestler?
Andre the Giant.
Andre the Giant.
Oh, yeah.
That dude was a big man. The Giant. Do you all remember? Not Andre the Giant, but the Giant that wrestled. He was our center at Wichita State University, Shockers. Paul White. He was
Wow.
our center.
Wow.
Yeah, and I remember this, and real quick, I remember the coach, Scott Thompson at the time. I don't even know why I remember this right now. Scott Thompson talking about, he's bringing a team of speed, and here comes the Giant. Like, doesn't even make sense. This dude's 7'6" and huge. There's nothing fast about Paul White or the Giant, but a heck of a wrestler.
Von
Great
Erich.
dude. Just an amazing person. Listen, make sure that you stay safe today. What's your WWF person? Who's your superhero? Be that person today and be a trucking safety hero. That's what I like to see. We'll see you tomorrow on BCB Live.